what is going on, guys? Worst Trends here. I live in the future now. Gotta say, getting sent to 2029 has its perks. So many things I would have had to wait years for are suddenly here now. GTA 6 is out, there's a new president in office, and all my belongings were stolen and vandalized. I mean, come on, I would have had to wait at least another year for that last one. And although I've enjoyed all these upsides, such as being homeless, I can't help but look back at 2025 and feel a little nostalgic. I keep thinking back at all the movies that came out that year. I went to the movie theater 7 times that year, far more than I usually do. Okay, I know that may not seem like a lot, but it is for me. I've been missing the past lately, so I think it would be cool to go back and rewatch all those movies I saw in theaters that year, and hey, why not rank them all too? Fair warning, there's gonna be extensive spoilers for these 4-year-old movies. We're gonna do this the classic way, 7 movies ranked worst to best, one by one. So let's get this show on the road with our first and worst movie. Oh my god, I forgot how much this one sucks.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Jurassic World Rebirth is by far one of the shittiest, most thrown together, cash grab, nostalgia baiting, most boring movies I have ever seen on my time in this earth. I'm a big fan of the Jurassic Park movies, and even the ones that are objectively terrible, I am more than willing to defend. All of these movies have, at the very least, one singular aspect about them that makes them worth watching and enjoying. But Rebirth? There isn't a single scene, a single character, hell, even a single line of dialogue that could produce any sense of a good time. This movie is completely worthless in every sense of the word. The movie starts off on a completely new third island, that being the place where the hybrid dinos for Jurassic World were made. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this directly contradict something they said about the Indominus back in the first Jurassic World?
How long has the animal been in here?
All its life?
Never seen anything outside of these walls?
We can't exactly walk it.
Hey look, I was right. Turns out I'm more than just a pretty face. Even so, we saw plenty of labs back on Isla Nublar, so what's really the point of this island? Bad writing, it's bad writing. We see these researchers enter the enclosure for something called the D-Rex, and this one guy drops a Snickers wrapper that gets sucked into a vent and somehow breaks the door. But then just a moment later, everyone runs back because the D-Rex escaped. How did it do this? Why were they going in there in the first place? Why would a door be designed like this? All very valid questions, I'm wondering the same thing. We get a look at this thing and that's just a fucking xenomorph. Stupid ass dinosaur with a stupid ass design. Cut to modern day and public interest in dinosaurs has waned. Literally how? Hey dude, wanna save up for a trip to Mars? Nah dude, going to Mars is old news, I could not care less about it. What? It's fucking Mars, man! Over the span of 5 years, the world has gone from dinosaur crazy to not giving a flying fuck. This is so unrealistic. Even if dinosaurs started to become more normalized, people in the real world still go to zoos and flip their shit at like anteaters. It would have to take centuries for the entire earth to just not care about them. I know this for a fact because they're still making these movies and people are still eating them up. Then we meet our main characters. Scarlett Johansson's like a mercenary or something who was hired by corporate rich guy to steal some shit from the aforementioned island. Helping them on their journey is smart guy and boat captain. See, corporate rich guy has found a way to cure heart disease, but in order to do so, he needs blood from the 3 largest dinosaurs on Earth. He then plans to sell the patent to the medical industry so they can charge trillions for it and keep the poor in their place, damn it! All these characters suck. You probably could have guessed that considering I couldn't remember any of their names, but yeah, they leave no impact. They're all so boring, they're just here to do the job and get money. Evil guy is obviously evil, and good-hearted hesitant guy is good-hearted and hesitant. The movie gives Scarlett Johansson and the boat captain sad, tragic backstories, but they serve no purpose whatsoever in the narrative. They get like one scene together where they're like, oh man, I lost someone close to me and it's really tearing me up. And then it just never comes back again. If I were to guess, this was done to make the characters more sympathetic so the audience would be willing to root for them. Because otherwise, they're just as bad as Michael Bonner. I mean the evil rich guy. They set out on their adventure and oh fucking god damn it! We are then introduced to the biggest fucking idiots in film history. I mean, they won an award and everything. I mean it when I say the combined IQ of these 4 equates to like a dead rat. They go sailing out into the middle of nowhere in a tiny boat in water that they are well aware of has a mosasaur in it. And the crazy part is they actually expected to not get eaten. The dad is a generic dad but really stupid. The daughter is a generic rebellious teen but is also really stupid. The kid is actually probably the smartest one in the group but annoying. And the boyfriend, wow, what a douchebag.
Can we just anchor for once?
We only carry 50 meters of anchor chains, 2,000 meters to the bottom.
Kinda sounds like somebody should have thought about that.
before we left.
Gotta give the movie credit, that is an accurate depiction of what Satan was like. Like, yes, this is a good depiction of how some people act, but why does the movie do what they do with him? After a certain point, he stops being outdated internet reference and starts being the wacky comic relief character. And he doesn't even get horrifically torn apart. I want a refund. It doesn't take long for the Mosasaur to do a great service for this country and try to kill these people. But he goes through all the effort of flipping the boat twice just to leave them for no reason. Bro had the perfect opportunity to chomp down on the boyfriend here, but just decided not to. And if you say that it's because bro didn't want to eat a bow, I'd like to reference the opening scene of Fallen Kingdom, where the guy tears through the metal and glass of a mini submarine to get 2 guys. And it's not just the Mosasaur, every single dinosaur in this movie is completely nerfed and dumbed down. And it all comes down to the dinos just not taking the obvious opportunities to eat. In a later scene, after our 2 groups converge, they get attacked by a swarm of Spinosaurus. At one point, the daughter falls off the edge of the boat and hangs there for a good 10 seconds, and the half-dozen Spinosaurus that are completely surrounding the boat don't even jump up at her. There's so many instances of dinosaurs just standing and staring at people for a few seconds before attacking them, giving them just enough time to get saved. And the dinos' power levels as a whole are underpowered. I don't care how good your grip strength is, you are not holding back a fucking Spinosaurus like that, and this door wouldn't hold back shit. All the humans are idiots too, like look at this. She just flips herself over the edge here, that's not even from the dinosaurs or anything. Then the boat's about to conveniently crash into the island, so the dad's like, hey family, let's jump into the Spinosaurus infested waters. Father of the year, everyone. I swear, with everything they said about the island, I was so sure it was gonna be Isla Sorna. And then they show that big ass footprint on the sand and it looks like the fucking Spinosaurus footprint. Pair that with the potential foreshadowing in the regular Spinosaurus around the island, and I was praying my guy was coming back. But that didn't end up happening. I was really disappointed when I watched this in theaters, but I'm actually glad that didn't happen now. Because this movie is so ass, it would ruin the Spinosaurus's PR and we would never see him again ever. So when his triumphant return eventually happens, and it will, it better be a good movie. Look, let's be real, this franchise is so creatively bankrupt, it's only a matter of time until they start bringing stuff back from what even the general public considers bad movies. It happened with the Star Wars prequels, it's gonna happen here. And yes, I know there was a suspiciously Spinosaurus-shaped skeleton in Jurassic World, but just retcon it, who fucking cares at this point? Clearly not the people making the movies, that's for sure. The 2 groups split up and the mercenaries get to be boring and the family gets to be the luckiest humans on the planet. They light a fire in the middle of the jungle, that's basically a lighthouse. You're asking for every dinosaur on the island to report to your exact coordinates. This family wouldn't last an hour on this island, but they had the luck of like Phineas and Ferb and survive with no issue. This later culminates in the raft scene, which is a legitimate contender for worst scenes in all of fiction, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. If you've seen this movie, you know just how long I could talk about this one scene. The T-Rex disappears, it just literally teleports. As previously stated, this is where they made all the hybrids for Jurassic World, but after that whole mass murder happened, they shut everything down and left the mutated dinosaurs behind. But a huge chunk of the dinosaurs on this island are completely normal looking, not a single imperfection. Why would the company not take this perfectly normal T-Rex for the park? It makes no sense. The whole island makes no sense actually. This was a research and breeding facility, so why is there a 7-Eleven here? Or giant underground tunnels, or a random Aztec temple carved into the side of a cliff face? Who made this? I will say the one decent thing about this movie is this shot here. It logistically makes no sense whatsoever, but hey, it's a cool idea at least. There's a big action climax with these mutodons and the xenomorph, and they do that thing where they don't eat people 2 feet in front of them. And at the end of the movie, the boat captain lures the xenomorph away with a flare, and the last we see of him, he's cornered with the xenomorph about 10 feet away. Yet he somehow survives this. And like, I would be willing to believe that the xenomorph has brain damage or something from all the mutations, but an animal that size would need to eat a shit ton of food in order to survive each day, and if it's pulling this shit every time, then I don't know how it could possibly be alive after all these years. But alas, they sail off into the sunset and totally forget that there's still a Mosasaur and Spinosaurus in that water. The credits are 13 minutes long, I can't believe there's this many sadists in the world. What a bad movie. For me, this is by far the worst one in the series. Say what you want about all the other sequels, but at least Fallen Kingdom was a decent continuation. At least JP3 had a good antagonist. At least Dominion had one good sequence. Rebirth has no good aspects. This franchise either needs to take a long hard look in the mirror or just go extinct already. Damn, that was a good one.
Chicken jockey!
From the very moment I first watched the trailer to this movie, I knew it would be one of the worst films I'd ever see. A Minecraft movie is completely, seriously irredeemable in my eyes. And that's saying something because my eyes have redeemed a lot. I mean, come on, he couldn't have been that bad. I remember a time when everyone and their dogs were hating on this movie when the trailers came out. But after the thing actually premiered, it felt like every single valid complaint just disappeared and everyone loved it. Every YouTuber went from going, wow, this looks genuinely terrible, to, I think I'm in love. Except Gerg, he's a real one. And I get why. It falls under the it's so bad it's good genre. And if that were just it, I wouldn't have much of a problem with this movie. Hell, maybe I'd even like it. But the writing in this movie is so disgusting in a way I don't think was intentional. Trust me, I hate this movie for a whole lot more reasons than it just being dumb fun. Because it is inherently so poor quality in every aspect. For example, why the fuck is it not animated? There's a lot of things about these movies' visuals that have been talked about to death when the trailers came out. And I don't have anything to add to that conversation, but I wholeheartedly agree. The writing of this movie though, that I have a bone to pick with. This movie suffers from having some of the worst exposition dumping I think I've ever seen. Right off the bat, the movie introduces us to the overworld as well as the nether. Immediately dropping a whole 2 new worlds on the audience is a bad way to start your movie. If you're unfamiliar with the game, you're going to be very confused just 5 minutes in. And before anyone says anything, no, the movie should not expect everyone watching to have prior knowledge about the game. I get that Minecraft is the biggest game ever, aside from Tetris apparently, but anyone who isn't a virgin probably won't immediately understand whatever the fuck a Zoglin is. There's so much information being dumped from both the overworld and the nether, yet it's also half-baked that it leaves me feeling a little perplexed on what to even think about it. Except that it's bad. Then there's Garrett's introduction, which is perfectly fine all things considered.
Go make me a sandwich!
But then, the holy grail of bad exposition occurs. The car scene. Honestly, just play the clip, it really speaks for itself. Oh, hold on, let me set up all my anti-copyright measures first. That's better.
Chunkless was not my first choice either, but it was Mom's dying wish for us to live here. Or at least that's how I interpreted it. Yeah, I read something online. This place sucks. Anyways, rent is super low, and I've got a full-time gig here, so it's not really an offer we're gonna turn down right now.
Why is she speaking to him like this is the first time he's ever heard this information before? They are currently just moments away from their new home. I like to think that this is the first time his sister has told him anything, like he didn't even know both his parents were dead until this conversation. This is such a first draft of a conversation, like the writer was just like, hey, do you have that list of information we need to portray for the kid's introduction scene? Oh, yeah, I got the list of bullet points right here. Thanks. Whoa, wait a minute, did you just put that in the completed script? Yeah, but it's fine, we'll worry about it later. The characters in this movie are so fucking stupid, and if you say that's the point, wrong! See, this isn't Monty Python or a racist early 2000s comedy where they push the concept of people being stupid to the absolute limit. Because this movie also wants you to take these characters' arcs seriously. Thus, they want you to take the characters somewhat seriously. But they all do so many dumb things all the time in a way that isn't a joke and actually hinders their own progress. Like, oh no, my brother's missing! Let me call my fucking real estate agent instead of the police, fire department, hospital, or literally anyone else in the damn country. Why is everything in this movie so forced? Another example is that the main villains of the movie, the Piglins, would have never accomplished their goal of taking over the overworld if Steve had just left the nether in the beginning instead of wasting his time talking to his dog and getting captured. I could go on, and I will, but there are so many examples of the characters doing something insanely stupid just so the plot can move forward smoothly. I already said this, but the movie genuinely feels like it never got a second draft. There's so many aspects of this movie that just don't make any sense, like how the main villain learns about everything Steve is doing through spies that are never brought up again. How token non-white character is able to find the kid's location in what I can only assume is an act of witchcraft. How Steve has a railroad going through an unprotected creeper farm. How the 2 lines about the Technoblade tribute were so unnaturally tacked onto the conversation, like they got the idea later on but didn't feel like rewriting the scene to make it fit. Or how removing token non-white character would be the easiest rewrite in movie history. One of the main characters of the movie could be completely removed and barely leave a scratch on the plot. For a movie about, as previously stated, the biggest game in the world, second to Tetris. There was such a huge lack of effort in every department. Aside from these two, they gave it their all. With that said, I did like it whenever Steve said something from the trailers, but I famously have a really terrible sense of humor when it comes to things like that.
The nether.
It took me like 4.5 years for the words Among Us to not make me burst out laughing. Was there even a single thing about this movie I liked? Well, yeah, the Orbs instruction manual joke was pretty funny. That felt like it came right out of regular show.
Do not follow this orb, even if you're a struggling business owner and need a ton of cash fast because there's loads of treasure down here.
But yeah, no. Other than that, the Minecraft movie means absolutely nothing to me, and I will gladly never think about it again, just like everyone else 2 months after it left theaters. After all, we're on to greener pastures now.
They jump at me! They jump at me!
The Running Man is a movie I'm sure you've either forgotten existed or never heard of, because despite being the newest movie on this list, it's easily the least memorable. It follows our main character Richards, who lives in a dystopian future where the entire country is being controlled by a TV network. And I think the network's name is Freevee. Why would you pay for that sponsor? Richards is a pretty unique character though, considering the fact that he's a fucking dick all the time. Society mainly revolves around the network's dozens of hazardous game shows, and after Richards gets blacklisted from the entire workforce, he's forced to try out for them to try to make money. They put a big emphasis on The Running Man, a show where 3 people try to survive 30 days while being hunted down by trained assassins. But Richards is willing to do anything but. We then meet our other two. Well, I don't want to say main characters because they're not around for very long. We've got quirky comic relief guy and this girl who just seems so familiar. I was looking at her for a long time and I couldn't help but think, wow, she is definitely a lesbian. But I also felt like I'd seen her before. And then it hit me. She was in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, where I also thought she looked like a lesbian. Anyway, these two people who later become the other runners just immediately start talking to our main guy all casually, acting like they're part of the friend group and shit.
Yo, Richard!
Knew it would be us, man. I knew it would be us.
Dumbass, he don't know you! They try out for seemingly days on end before Richards and his goons are very unceremoniously chosen for the Running Man. He doesn't even react when he finds this out, despite the multiple times he's outwardly expressed that being on the show is a death sentence. And the other guys are like, oh, hey, cool, Running Man. Nobody's ever won this show over 26 seasons, but I guess they're okay with it because they get wine and women.
Don't worry, we'll keep it down. Yeah.
Okay, you can't even be mad at me anymore. I fucking called that. Richards begrudgingly accepts to do the show, and if he wins, he'll get 1 billion new dollars. What, did Nintendo name that shit? And with that, the game and my complaints begin. For a good while, this movie is exactly what you expect. Big action scene after another big action scene. And for the most part, it's pretty enjoyable. There's these cool tracking shots with the camera drones, the action is pretty diverse and fun, and since everything's being broadcast on TV, we get these cool moments of Richards using the narrator's callouts to stay alive. There's 5 main hunters and a ton of other less important ones. They're all decked out in the biggest and best weapons available, while Richards has nothing. So you'd think that this would be an easy sweep for the hunters every time, right? Well, yes, actually. A really cool aspect of this movie that I wish they did more with is the concept that the hunters could actually kill the runners whenever they want, but intentionally let them get away so the show can keep going. I love that idea. Not only does it make this whole scenario more realistic, but it's just a really unique idea that can only be used in this specific scenario. There's so many moments where the hunters will see Richards and not shoot immediately or just not have their guns drawn at all. And it's a cool way to make this character believably survive this stuff. Unfortunately, this idea is dropped eventually and the movie starts to become a lot worse because of it. It's a real shame because like I said, when are we ever going to see this idea be available again? I think it would have been a lot cooler if they didn't reveal this until the end of the movie and it could serve as some huge moment for Richards as he learns his whole game was a lie. And early on you could foreshadow this by having the hunters conveniently miss shots right in front of them or have guns jam or whatever. Remember, these hunters are absolute powerhouses. It would be insane if Richards could take them all in a fight.
You know how she tells you it's horny? Nah.
I don't get it. I like how they use AI to change what he says in recordings. I really like the Home Alone house with Michael Cera. Man, I wish I was watching Superbad right now.
Touch me. Touch me.
But the movie starts to go downhill when he takes this random girl hostage and she suddenly becomes really important a whole hour and a half into the movie. It's honestly a little difficult for me to truly pinpoint why the movie stops working for me here. It's like once it starts to get fully into the class system and politics of it all, it just kind of gets lost in itself. Like Richards is seen as this beacon of hope for everyone, but also everything they hear him say is altered to be awful, and when that isn't the case, he just seems like a dick who doesn't care about the class imbalance at all. So I don't get why everyone is unanimously rooting for him. At the end of the movie, he drops Michael Cera's pamphlets of truth over the streets, and this is apparently all it takes for the entire upper class to abandon their luxurious lifestyles and fight back against the network. Everything just works out so perfectly, and it's so unrealistic because the movie just spent the last 2 hours showing that the network has complete control over everybody. I don't think that these pan flips and green screen YouTubers are gonna do anything to change the minds of the upper class people. Hell, I don't even think this information would reach them to begin with. So to have the entire corporate overlords completely fall apart from something this small is a little ridiculous in my opinion. Somehow, Richard surviving a plane explosion is the most realistic part of this. I think this movie would have been a lot better if it went for more of a bad ending route. Using that idea I had earlier, we could have Richard survive day after day in crazy ways, just barely getting by each time. So later on, Richards can learn about the network's wrongdoings and try to take them down, thinking he's invincible. But on the final day, we get the reveal that Richards' run has been completely fabricated and the hunters could have killed him at any point if they wanted. But since he was so determined or crazy or whatever reason, the network let him last longer because so many people were tuning in. And this soul-crushing reveal would be where the movie ends more or less, with Richards getting killed and things going back to the status quo. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Do people really like the original ending? Better question, did anyone even see the original ending? This is just personally what I would prefer to see from this movie. The action peaks with the hotel and Michael Cera scene, so it would be nice to have a little more of that. But, you know, I never finished Fahrenheit 451, so maybe my opinion isn't valid actually. Oh, and one more thing. So at the end of the movie, Richard's wife is shopping and pulls some socks out of her cart. The cashier says,
Oh my god, these are adorable.
and then she says,
Oh, no, sorry, those aren't mine.
and then she says,
The guy outside bought them for you, Mrs. Richards?
what the fuck is this interaction?
She said, Travis, you work too hard. I'm worried you forget about me.
They canceled Theater Thrash for this. Around the time this movie came out, I was in the midst of watching through every MCU movie up to Endgame, but I did not feel the need to watch anything after. Aside from Guardians and Deadpool 3, which are both the worst movies of their respective trilogies. Sue me, why don't ya? Well, fuck you, man! I heard that this movie was going to be completely self-contained, which is the only reason I decided to watch it. Okay, well that was a lie. I was also into Marvel Rivals at the time, and I fell victim to the fantastic propaganda that was going around at the time. I went into this movie expecting a fun, decent time. You can guess where this is going. With this movie being perfectly in the middle of the list, it's definitely the one I'm the least opinionated on. The 3 movies before this one are bad, and the 3 movies after are good. And that leaves Fantastic Four First Steps directly between them as a definitive eh. And that's not to say that this movie is bad. Well, it's not to say it's good either. Look, I really wish I could rate it a Fantastic 4 out of 10, but it's really just a Captain Marvel. The movie starts off with Invisible Woman on the toilet, and I legitimately thought this movie opened up with someone shitting. Fortunately, it's just sex. Thank God. It's followed by some, sensing a theme here, terrible exposition. Hey honey, now that you're finally pregnant, why don't we reset our entire journey up to this point? I cheated on you. Yeah, that tracks. So Mr. Oh great, it's Pedro Pascal. So Mr. Fantastic is all upset because he thinks his child's gonna be born a horrific monster, or worse, a DC fan. So he's running all these kinds of tests on Sue day after day. And after some time, Sue's just like, Reed, you are really fucking annoying, check this shit out. Oh yes, thank you movie. I really wanted to see Sue Storm Invisiwoman her baby bump so I could look at an unborn fetus still in the womb. Really knocking it out of the park for us embryo fans. Imagine being the poor soul that had to spend 2 weeks making the CGI for this. I wonder if he's still alive. So everything is going good for a while until Silver Lady shows up and tells everyone that Galactus is gonna eat their planet. New Jersey and all. Man, that's just fucking disgusting. I appreciate the heads up though. She really didn't have to do that. Speaking of things people didn't have to do.
Load the car.
Oh, my suspension is fucked. But the Fantastic Four really aren't into that whole vor thing, so they jump in their ship and travel all the way to Galactus' place to talk. This scene goes on for a while, but all he really tells them is that their world is fucked left unless he gets his hands on their kid, who's like super OP or something and can take Galactus's place as the Planet Eater. But they obviously refuse, so Galactus just tries to kill them, which is made easier on his part when Sue starts going into labor. But by the Fantastic Four's skin of their teeth, they make it out of there. And our good pals over at Disney Marvel graciously gave us the opportunity of watching Sue give birth in real time. Now excuse me a moment while I take a quick break. They go back and tell the world what Galactus said and that they're not going to give up their kid to save the world. So then everyone is pretty understandably pissed off and starts roiding in the streets and shit. In a lot of movies, whenever there's a scenario similar to this, it usually gets resolved in some dumb way. But that's not at all the case here. Sue's speech is genuinely amazing, and I totally get why everyone suddenly changed their minds about them.
I will not sacrifice my child for this world, but I will not sacrifice this world for my child.
I was honestly really impressed by their writing here. This is the one time this movie made me feel something. They then make a plan to teleport Earth to a different solar system, which, sure. And they build a bunch of these big teleporters to do it. Question, it doesn't look like they were taking the moon. What were they planning on doing about the tides? But anyway, right before they teleport the Earth, Chrome Gradient comes back and destroys all the teleporters. All of them except for the one that's right next to the fort. Huh, well that was nice. This comes in handy when Galactus later arrives to kidnap the kid. The four plan to lure him to the teleporter and send his ass back to Saturn, but he dramatically just barely avoids it, which is kind of an annoying trope, but what do I know? I talked about a kid's show for 7 hours, not much. Sue tries to lead him back, but... Women drivers, am I right? Then there's the whole rest of the fight scene, which I'm not going to say much about because it's perfectly fine, aside from this one thing. Other people have mentioned this, but Mr. Fanta is barely getting stretched here. It's honestly embarrassing. The stretching he's doing doesn't even look too far off from what we've seen him do in normal situations. It's so dumb, but to be fair, we've seen dumber. Metallica sacrifices herself and the day is saved. So, that was definitely a feature film. Now, is it a good movie? We already discussed this. No. But is it a bad movie? What, are you fucking deaf now? Look, I love the aggressive ass 60s aesthetic. I love the OST. I love this line.
They defeated Red Ghost and his super apes.
But this movie is just a handful of cool sequences, a few decent characters, and nothing else to write home about. I know that this review was just 90% plot recap, but I legitimately just have nothing to say about this movie. I watched it and just stared at my screen for the entire time. Nothing was clicking with me in either a good or bad way. It was just a movie to me, and that's it. Which, in a way, doesn't that make this movie far worse than both Rebirth and Minecraft? Fuck no. I have a soft spot for fun, dumb action movies. Stuff like Fast and Furious, Bourne Identity, or Taken. You know, they're not exactly high art. They never have the most gripping narratives or deepest characters or anything. But what they do have is a bunch of kick-ass fight scenes, and I love that. Watching a movie where one guy takes on the world and wins can be exhilarating, and Mission Impossible is absolutely no exception. I've watched and enjoyed every previous movie in the series, but they all have the same issue of kind of blending together. Like, I remember that the third one is in China, and that Fallout's finale takes place in, I think, Turkmenistan or something. I don't fucking remember. I can remember specific scenes and sequences, but gun to my head, I couldn't tell you if the Simon Pegg bomb scene comes from Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocol. I also couldn't even remember half the subtitles. I had to look those up just now. And I think that really goes to show what kind of movies these are. Dumb, fun action movies. And that's not an insult because, like I said, all these movies kick ass. But just don't expect me to have a lot to say about them. They're not perfect, but what else are they gonna do? Make another Minecraft movie? Son of a bitch. And as for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, it's great. Amazing even. It is undoubtedly an awesome movie. Or it's a very good half of a movie. Yes, this is a very unique entry on this list due to this being the second part of a much longer movie. That being Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Just Final Reckoning on its own is nearly 3 hours long, and with Dead Reckoning technically being its own movie, I couldn't be bothered to rewatch it. But thankfully for me, this movie spends its first half hour catching us up to speed. You heard me correctly, a full 30 minutes. So basically, the world is on the brink of destruction. An evil AI is about to hijack the world's nuclear arsenal and end all of humanity Ultron style. Which really makes that first movie quaint looking back. Ethan Hunt has a key that will unlock a box in a sunken submarine that can be used to kill the AI. Also, the government is pissed off at him, but like, Come on, that's a given. That's more or less all you really need to know, but the movie spends just a little bit more time explaining that. We start off with the president sending Ethan a message and recapping everything, which works pretty good as a way to remind viewers, but it gets a little messy when the president starts explaining Ethan's motives to Ethan. But otherwise, this message works well in universe. But what doesn't is the second wave of exposition from Luther and Simon Pegg. This scene sees the two going over absolutely everything that happened in the last movie to Ethan. All information he already knows. And I'm not gonna act like this information isn't helpful. The movie would be a lot more confusing without it, but damn it if it isn't clunky. Some of the information is even repeated from the president's message. But again, it fulfills its purpose and jogged my memory of part 1 just fine. It's only been, what, 6 years? Ah!
You can't keep getting away with it!
I really don't want to recount the entire plot for this one because, well, so I'm gonna make the sacrifice of making this review pretty disjointed while I just mention some things one by one in a really terrible way, like this is just gonna suck for you guys. 1. The opening credits are certified epic. The movie as a whole has a great OST, probably the best in this video. 2. I've noticed that this series is a lot like House in the way that every movie Ethan goes rogue, and every time the IMF is like, oh no, he's gone too far, we gotta stop him. Like this is the one time he's actually doing something bad, even though he's been right every single time. 3. Early in the movie, Ethan uses a sledgehammer for a kill and it's absolutely brutal, and then he's just weirdly psychotic in this scene. 4. Killing off series mainstay Luther is a fine choice, but this is also one of his first meaningful scenes in, I think, the full duology. So it more feels like they're writing him out because there's too many characters. Same thing with the other government agent guy. He was a big focus in Dead Reckoning, but is only in like 2 scenes here despite his partner becoming a part of the main team. I think they just had more characters than they knew what to do with. Which is fine, but oh wait, hold on. Thumbnail moment. 5. I really like the visual ticking clock of every country's nukes becoming hijacked one by one. It adds a lot, and every time it happens is a certified oh fuck moment. 6. There's this one scene where Ethan needs to swim down to an abandoned submarine to get something, which is, of course, hanging over the Mariana Trench. So he's like 600 feet below sea level and he loses his oxygen tank. So what does he do? He just swims up to the surface in sub-zero temperatures. This would easily kill all but the most trained professionals. And the movie even makes a point that holding your breath underwater here would cause your lungs to explode. But via the power of Scientology, Tom Cruise just tanks it. Okay, so that's almost 5 minutes without mentioning Scientology. When I watched this in theaters, I correctly predicted that the scene of Ethan descending into the ocean would take like a millennium, and I used the opportunity to piss. A quick PSA, whenever you go to the movies, do not get any food or drinks. Not only will this save you a fortune because inflation is fucked in 2029, but drinking anything will make you need to go to the bathroom. This will then present you with what I like to call the theater dilemma. Either you hold it in and spend the rest of the movie not being able to enjoy it due to living in agony, or you leave to go to the bathroom and miss something important. And any kind of food, especially popcorn, will just make you thirsty and later on present the theater dilemma. Please consider this next time you go. I am begging you. 7. And the last thing I want to mention is that Gabriel, the main human antagonist of both movies, has a super anticlimactic death. The whole plane sequence was really cool, but he just flies off and dies immediately. And he pretty much died thinking he had bested Ethan, which is not how I would have done it. It's probably the worst aspect of the movie. There was so much buildup to seeing this guy die, and it was just not as big of a moment as it should have been. It's almost played for laughs. And the worst part is that just a few movies ago, the villain died via being hooked in the skull and dragged off a cliff. These movies know how to make an amazing villain death, but they just didn't. I feel bad for having so little to say, but this movie is kind of just really cool action set piece to really cool action set piece. And I mean it when I say cool. This movie has some absolutely fantastic moments, some of the best I've ever seen. In terms of pure unbridled action, this movie is an easy 10 out of 10. Now, is this the greatest action movie ever made? Counter question, is it named John Wick 4?
You know you make me run.
I like horror movies. Most horror movies, I'd say. The only subgenre I actively avoid is body horror, which genuinely terrifies me more than real-world issues. But other than that, it's fair game. Slashers, psychological, sci-fi, whatever the fuck Skinamarink is. But above all, my absolute favorite type of horror movie is torture porn. That sounds fucking awful. It's Saw, okay? I really like the Saw series. Part of it is because of the insanely ridiculous storyline weaved between the dozen or so movies. And the other part is the really cool kills it has. The latter being my favorite type of thing to see in a horror movie, a crazy unique kill. And yes, I know how that probably makes me sound. It's like that kid we all went to school with that would brag about watching cartel beheading videos for some reason. It's not cool, dude. Keep fucking around and you're gonna end up like your heroes. But despite how much I love the Saw series, you'd be surprised to hear that I've never watched a Final Destination movie before. I, of course, watched the kill counts for the previous 5s like a piece of shit, but I never sat down and watched one myself. But then something crazy happened. A movie? For people? Final Destination Bloodlines is just an awesome movie. If you don't know what the deal is with this franchise, I'll give you a quick rundown. In the beginning of each movie, someone gets a vision from the future about an impending disaster that's going to kill them and many others. They then prevent this disaster and save everyone. For now. See, our good old friend the Grim Reaper gets absolutely pissed off when you don't just sit back and die like a good boy. So the rest of the movie follows our surviving cast slowly getting picked off one by one in the most unimaginably insane ways possible. The titular opening vision scene, aka the premonition, is usually the best part of each movie, and that is no exception for this one. Now excuse me while I gushed about this scene for 3 minutes. Oh my gosh, the Skyview Tower scene may just be my single favorite scene in all of horror. It is so fucking good. I have never in my life seen a movie just build up pure dread as much as this one does. And every moment goes on agonizingly long, like you just want to bite the bullet and have the tower fall down already, but nothing happens until a whopping 14 minutes into the movie. 2 minutes in and literally nothing has happened, and yet the movie does this phenomenal job at building stress and tension. There's so many subtle sound cues, and the camera movement just makes me so uncomfortable. Like they first show the building via a worm's eye view, and it just keeps panning up for uncomfortably long. It is legitimately so unnerving. I can already tell I'm gonna run out of synonyms very fast. Make more already, damn it! On top of that, the amount of foreshadowing they pack into this opening makes a rewatch so much more enjoyable.
Does he love you? Yes. Then he won't let go.
That is so fucked up if you know what happens to who they're talking about. And the entire finale to the movie is foreshadowed in the first 3 shots. Not to mention all the little sprinklings of paranoia they sneak in there just to add to the fear. Like the elevator door jamming or just how claustrophobic the entire scene is. Like look at them just pack into this small ass elevator.
We'll take the next one. Oh, come on. We can fit you in.
Come on through. All the deer. All the deer at one time. Come on, all the deer. More deer!
Being the 6th movie in this franchise, the movie knows that you know what's about to happen. There's no beating around the bush here. It's all just, hey dude, guess what? Huh? Millions will die. Yeah, I know. The movie just really hammers in dozens of these small elements that eventually result in the huge calamity that I haven't even gotten to yet. And even though I've seen this movie before and remember everything that happens, everything before the disaster just gives me that nervous feeling and gets me sweating. Watching this movie is a genuinely awful experience. I never want to watch it again, but holy shit, I kind of want to watch it again. Because the moment when it all pays off and the glass floor shatters is just beautiful. Throughout the first 14 minutes, the movie sets up like 20 different things that could go wrong, and once we get to this point, it's just everything finally clicking one after another. And just when you think the worst of it is over, there's the shot where all the bottles start rolling. I fucking love this movie. I got goosebumps, man! Unfortunately, I can't show much of this scene because it's pretty graphic and even upsetting at points. But if this at all sounds interesting, go watch it. You don't even need to watch the full movie, just stop once Iris dies and it works as its own fucked up little short. Damn, dude, what a phenomenal scene. Or it's like 20 minutes long, so it's like a segment. It's a phenomenal segment. After this, though, we cut to the present day where we follow our main character from the opening's granddaughter, Steph. Bloodlines found a really interesting way to expand on the Final Destination lore in a way that's not only super cool, but feels really natural in the context of the series. After the tower disaster was averted, Death went around and killed everyone who survived. But he took so long to do this that the people at the end of the list ended up having entire families that were never meant to be born, meaning that he must now off all of them as well. The rest of the movie follows the tried and true formula of everyone trying and failing to stop the curse. And this portion of the movie is also really good. It makes you really care about the family, which makes it all the more heartbreaking when this happens. Just pretend that Eric's death is on screen right now. I can't show that shit. Another thing I love about this movie is that it goes out of the way to make Death a petty asshole. He does so much shit that is entirely unnecessary just to fuck with people. The second major death is that of Uncle Howard, and in this scene, Death is setting up his kill that involves a glass shard. Meanwhile, Steph is in the other room researching, and Death just gives her a clue on what's about to happen by breaking a picture frame. There's absolutely no reason to do this, he just wanted her there to see it happen, I guess. Another example is this. After the aforementioned Uncle Howard is killed, it's said that Steph's cousin Eric is next in line to die, but no one believes her and he goes to work. Death then sets up another iconic Rube Goldberg contraption to kill him, but he doesn't actually die. Later on, it's revealed that Eric's mom had an affair and he was never actually a part of the cursed bloodline. Meaning that Death did all of this for a laugh, I guess. What a troll. Then there's of course the finale where Steph and her brother Charlie think they've beaten the curse via a loophole where Steph drowned and died but came back. A while later, they're celebrating the win but are then confirmed that Steph technically never died and thus the curse isn't over. They are then immediately killed. So yes, this asshole waited presumably months to kill them just so it would be really funny. What if it took them like a decade to realize the truth? Would he have waited that long? At what point does he draw the line? This movie is also great at shifting tones. Pretty frequently, the movie switched between fear, grief, and humor very fluidly. It actually has a handful of really funny jokes. But yeah, the story is great, the characters are great, and the movie looks amazing too. Not a single bad shot. Wait a minute, why does it look like that? What the fuck is this? Who did this shit? That wasn't even a part of the curse, you're just fucking stupid. Everything left I have to say has to do with the characters' deaths, so why don't we switch things up a bit and rank them all? No, I don't want to do that. I said we to be inclusive, you don't actually get a choice, dude. Aww. Just a heads up, I don't think blurring is gonna be enough for a few of these scenes, so I'll be doing my best to recreate them in MS Paint. Don't worry, it'll be just like the real thing. Number 7 and 8 are Steph and Charlie, the de facto main characters of the movie. As previously mentioned, these are the final kills of the movie, and like, the kills themselves are fine. The two get crushed to a liquid by some falling logs. It's decent, a little basic in terms of this series, but you know, it's not bad. The issue I have is that the two main characters, after all the growth they went through during this story, just die in the end. I understand that the theme of the movie is to enjoy life because you never know how much longer you have, but we've spent so much time getting to genuinely care about these characters that this just feels kinda cheap. But you know, it does enforce the theme. Narratively, it's a good decision, but I don't like it. Number 6 is Uncle Howard. Don't get me wrong, having your face get torn open by a lawnmower is a great kill, and the scene leading up to it has some great tension, being the first main family member to die. But the lawnmower covers most of the scene, so you don't even get to see much. But, you know, being an early kill, it might be better to start a little simpler so the later deaths can be more shocking. In other movies, this would be a fantastic kill, but here, it's alright. Number 5 is Iris. The very first real kill in the entire movie, and not a bad one to start out. A metal rod just flies through her jaw. It's not the most exciting thing ever, but it's pretty bloody and serves as a great first kill. It's graphic enough to be shocking, but not too much where it outclasses future deaths. But I don't know, man. I feel like half the shit Iris has outside her cabin is mad counterproductive. There are just spikes and metal everywhere. Why do you have this? Number 4 is Darlene. Most of my enjoyment from this one is just how sudden it is. She's mid-sentence, "I'll stay alive for as long as I can," then just gets straight up flattened. It's great and immediately adds way more tension to the scene because now Steph is next on the list and currently drowning in a pond. Also, the explosion that takes place right before this makes a great set piece. Someone should make a Minecraft edit of this scene, you know, like when the telegram. Coming up hot at number 3, I don't know why I said that, is Julia. Now this is where shit gets real. She gets decapitated and delimbed via a fucking trash compactor, and it goes right through her jaw and everything. This is a textbook amazing Final Destination kill. Number 2 is Bobby. The build up to Bobby's death is an easy second best segment of the movie. First up, the setting of a hospital is a really great location for creative kills. Then there's the talk between Bobby and his brother that has so much heart. It's so bittersweet because, once again, this happens. It's genuinely such a nice moment between these two, and it fleshes out Bobby so much as a character who, prior to this scene, hasn't really done much yet. The two deaths that take place in this scene are the first ones to be just as sad as they are fucking awesome. A metal coil rotates into his skull, absolutely obliterating his frontal lobe. And then he just stands there, still alive for a good 5 seconds after it happens too. And it's like actively still twisting into his brain. Bravo, guys! You know, maybe I should watch another video. And number 1 is obviously Eric. Like, there's no way it wasn't. Fucker gets ripped in half via a MRI machine pushing spikes clean through his body. Like, that just says it all there. I really shouldn't have to explain myself. The whole thing with the MRI machine is so awesome. Like, I love the scene where the metal stuff in the background starts slowly getting pushed towards the room. And then there's the hilarious bit where all of Eric's piercings start getting magnetized. Like, damn, that one had to hurt. You know which one. For any doctors watching, is the MRI stuff in this scene realistic? Like, is this actually a possible scenario? I used to think there was no way, but I'm always willing to learn. Aww. And there you have it. A cute little concise ranking of all my favorite horrific kills in one of my favorite horrific horror movies of all time. They be calling me James A. Janice the way I be counting up these kills. Oh, James died last year. Well, kind of puts a damper on my mood. Superman 2025 is amazing. And I'm sure that people are already crying and pissing and emailing James Gunn as we speak. But Superman is such a refreshing take on the superhero genre. As I mentioned earlier, this movie came out when I was in the process of finally watching all the Marvel movies. And it was really crazy to me just how different this movie feels compared to the Marvel ones. And that's not to say I don't like the Marvel movies, because I do in fact enjoy most of them, but Superman is just... it's just fun, guys. Since half this video is already a fucking lecture on how to show exposition, fuck it, let's just talk about how this one does it. I think that using this text format at the beginning works really well. We don't need to physically see Superman's origin story because, let's be real, everyone knows Superman. And that may sound hypocritical with how I just described Minecraft movie's exposition, but the difference is that this movie still presents everything in an understandable way even if you're unfamiliar with Superman. It's also notably not 10 metric fuck tons of information to swallow, and it all builds up to the modern day where we learn that Superman just lost his first battle, which, unrelated, is a really cool way to start a movie. There is for sure quite a lot of info thrown at us in the first 20 minutes or so of the movie, but everything as a whole is presented far better than in Minecraft. Each tidbit of lore is tackled one by one and fully explained when done so. Everything from the Daily Planet to the geopolitics to the Justice Gang enter the plot very fluidly. The Justice Gang, by the way, is great. I at first rolled my eyes when they got introduced. I thought it was way too early for the Avengers equivalent to show up in basically the first movie of the DCU. But it works because they don't just show up for some cheap foreshadowing or cameo, but are completely integral to the plot and are all fantastic characters on their own. Mr. Terrific is obviously a huge highlight. He's such a funny character. Hawkgirl's pretty cool, but when I first watched the movie, I thought she was played by Aquafina, which of course pissed me off. This is the worst one so far. And Green Lantern's pretty funny too.
Dude, you got a secret harem?
Why is there an OnlyFans actress in my Superman movie? I love how they make Superman just inherently super nice. I haven't seen Man of Steel, but from what I've heard, he wasn't like that there. I remember people hating the squirrel scene for some reason, but it fits the character perfectly, that he wouldn't even let a squirrel get injured, which makes it all the more heartbreaking when he can't say Ali later. Wait, Ali? He was one of the kindest characters in fiction. He didn't fucking deserve it. Of course, that doesn't mean that this is a perfect movie. For example, the fact that there were multiple people just hanging around doing whatever like 10 minutes into the kaiju fight is a little bizarre to say the least. And while I do love the ending scene, you gotta tell me, who the fuck is recording all the videos? Everyone is in frame here. Well, dumbass, if you looked at issue 91... The people turn on Superman immediately, which if you say that's unrealistic, you clearly haven't been on the internet very long. With that said, I think it's about time you give Mom her phone back. However, the ending where everyone suddenly despises Luthor and loves Superman is a little baby showish in my opinion. It's such a huge change in perception that happens so fast. Oh man, if there's one thing liberals and conservatives can shut up. Speaking of Lex Luthor though, he's fantastic. I absolutely love that he just hates Superman so much for like no reason. He orchestrates this entire militaristic takeover of another nation just so he has an excuse to kill Superman.
He's grooming us.
That is so funny. I love that. The efforts he goes through to do this, by the way, are nothing easy. He epically trolls the entire world government. He builds an interdimensional teleporter. He talks to Jimmy Fallon. And worst of all, he has to be in a room with this guy.
Secret harem.
As previously mentioned, this movie has a very distinct looking actress play a part in the story. She doesn't do much of anything, so I was just gonna pass it off as nothing. Until, in the climax, these three fucking background characters go along with the main cast in the tea saucer for legitimately no reason. They just wanted OnlyFans girl in it more. And just look at this guy right here. I don't think he had a single line in this entire movie, yet he's just here in the end as if he's been a main character the whole time. I mean, it's possible that these characters played a more vital role in an earlier draft of the script that got cut, or maybe this girl is sleeping with the director and they wanted her inclusion to seem more natural. It could be anything, really. A few other things I wanted to mention were that I found it a bit of a weird choice to not kill the nanobot lady. And I know they wanted to have it so Superman never directly kills anyone the whole movie, but come on, what else could his intentions been here? Especially since this movie has no problem having pretty gruesome deaths. Ali, an innocent civilian, is brutally shot dead on screen, which by the way was very shocking. I did not expect that. That makes 2 times now. Okay, so his name is actually Malik, but I thought it was Ali at first and I just really wanted to mention Squid Game. But yeah, the ending of the movie is wholesome as fuck, and believe me, fuck is wholesome. Luthor finally getting his comeuppance, Superman finally getting with Lois, and everyone getting saved from the pocket dimension is super satisfying. And yes, they save everyone in the end. Even all the monkeys Luthor had as- okay, why is this such a focus? I really like Superman, and out of all 7 movies I've talked about in this video, this is by far the one I can see myself rewatching the most. It's fantastic, it's inspiring, it's super, and by god damn it, it's punk rock. Godspeed, James Gunn. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And there you have it, every movie I watched in the golden year of 2025 ranked and reviewed. There were also a ton of other movies I saw that year, such as Weapons, Rush Hour, and Inglourious Bastards. But since they didn't release in 2025 and I didn't see them in theaters, I decided to leave them out. And besides, have you seen the length of this video? And while 2025 was a bit of a mixed bag, I definitely enjoyed the year's output quite a bit, as even the movies I didn't really care for had some sort of upside that made them worth seeing. Except you. It kinda makes me want to go back and rewatch every theatrical movie from 2024 and 2023 and so on. But that's all in the past now, and I've got a lot to catch up on from the past few years. Movies are probably so much better in the future anyway. Why don't we take a look at what Hollywood's been up to? We need to kill everyone.